one of your group members pull out a guy's intestines in front of you.
Yeah, with the knife. It was serrage edge, the little teeth on top.
We had seen how massive and how violent those riots are. And the reason we saw it was because it was captured under hundreds of closed-circuit casino television cameras.
I had about 19, 20 conversations with them. They said the recorder only worked twice.
They weren't supposed to talk, but they did, on camera. And what they said, it changed everything. These are the most shocking Hell's Angels interviews ever recorded, and the secrets they revealed might get someone killed.
Yeah, I saw it in his hand. He had a small screwdriver, and when I got up, I could feel the pinch in the back right here,
When you think of a gang president, you might expect someone hardened, sure, but also calculated, careful, even media-trained. Charles Goldsmith was none of those things. He wasn't shy about violence. He didn't soften the edges. He didn't sanitize the details. He gave interviews like he was recounting a night out drinking, except his stories were soaked in blood, chaos, and brutality that most people couldn't stomach. Goldsmith wasn't just any member. He was right in the middle of it all. As the president of a Hell's Angels chapter, he didn't just witness violence, he orchestrated it. And when he talked about it, it was like he'd almost forgotten he wasn't supposed to say these things out loud.
He cracked me across the face with it, and I jumped up, and boom, it was on, And I was rolling around with 3 of them, but actually 4 of them were up there. 3 I fought with, and the 4th one, he would just kind of stand by the staircase,
Take the infamous brawl with the Outlaws, for instance. A rivalry that had been simmering turned into all-out war one day. According to Goldsmith, it started off tense. You could cut the air with a knife, he said. 2 gangs standing across from each other, waiting for some invisible bell to ring. Then someone made a move, a cocky walk, a glance too long, and boom, it erupted. Goldsmith described how one outlaw tried to run past him, no hesitation. He grabbed the guy, threw him to the ground, and just started punching him over and over. That was bad enough. But then, casually, like he was talking about a backyard BBQ, Goldsmith described watching one of his brothers, a guy now serving life for murder, take out a small knife and gut the outlaw right there on the floor.
Man, as he was pulling it out, I could see all his intestines coming out, and I just got off of him, and I was like, oh, this guy's done, I didn't know if he was dead or alive.
He didn't hold back. I could see all his intestines coming out, Goldsmith said, like it was just another Tuesday. And instead of being shocked or sickened, he just stood up and moved on to the next target. No remorse, no pause, just raw, unfiltered violence. That's the kind of man Charles Goldsmith was. And the way he told it? You'd think he was explaining a bad sports play, not a literal disembowelment. But the carnage didn't stop there. One of his most disturbing stories didn't even happen in a gang war. It happened on a road trip. A long ride back from San Francisco to Las Vegas. A pack of about 16 Hell's Angels roaring down a rocky road, some of them with their girlfriends on the back. Goldsmith tried to warn them. He told them the road was rough, that it wasn't safe. Suggested they put the women in the trailer being hauled behind the group. Some listened, some didn't. And what happened next was beyond horrifying. Jay Dobyns wasn't born into the Hell's Angels. He didn't ride up to the clubhouse wearing a patch. He was a federal agent, ATF, and he walked straight into hell disguised as one of them. For 2 straight years, Dobyns lived undercover inside one of the most feared outlaw motorcycle clubs in America. And what he had to do to earn their trust, it'll make your skin crawl.
Into thinking that I had murdered whoever their intended victim was.
Okay, so in these type of situations, how much money do people usually put up for a murder for hire?
And you'd be shocked at how little sometimes those transactions are worth.
He had to fake a murder. The Angels needed to believe he had taken out a rival. They gave him instructions: shoot him in the eye, disassemble the weapon, remove the serial number. There was no plan B. If Dobyns didn't pull it off convincingly, he'd end up in a ditch somewhere. So he did what he had to. With the help of other undercover agents, they staged the whole thing. They used cow guts, fake blood, and staged photos of a mutilated corpse. Then he delivered the proof inside a FedEx box addressed to himself from Mexico. The moment the angels opened it and saw what was inside, the reaction wasn't what any sane person would expect. It wasn't horror or panic. It was joy.
Used blood and guts from the butcher shop to make the victim appear that he'd been beaten with a baseball bat in the head and shot in the head. Then I took pictures of that. I cut the bloody Mongol vest off the victim and took it back to the Skull Valley Hells Angels as evidence that I had done the murder as the way I described I was going to.
They were hugging him, putting a gang patch on his back, welcoming him with open arms. That staged murder had earned him full acceptance. "You're one of us now," they said. No questions, just pride. As Dobyns stood there, watching them celebrate a kill he didn't actually commit, he realized something terrifying. If he had done it, their reaction wouldn't have been any different.
Co-conspirators in developing the plan and developing the bomb lived in Kingman, Arizona, which was not far from where I was working, a guy named Michael Fortier. And so this semi-generic investigation that I was working on all of a sudden had a spotlight on it because there was interest in who else might be planning something, who McVeigh was overlapping with.
And that was just the start. Dobyns also shared details of real murders he learned about while undercover. One that stood out, because of how senseless and brutal it was the killing of Cynthia Garcia, a woman who had the misfortune of attending a party at the Mesa, Arizona clubhouse. She insulted a few members, maybe just said something they didn't like. And for that, they stabbed her 20 times. She was still breathing after that, so they kept going, over and over until she finally died. Christie claimed there were whispers for years that East Coast Angels had been hired to carry out hits for other groups. Whether it was true or not, the rumors were strong enough to make people look over their shoulders. But what he did confirm was even darker. The Angels, according to him, were knee-deep in police corruption and had their fingers in the courtroom system. Witnesses disappeared, cases fell apart, and judges conveniently looked the other way. It wasn't a conspiracy theory. It was their strategy.
With an extended kickstand, he was beating these Mongols over the head with this kickstand, and his police handlers were there watching him.
But if you want to understand just how violent this world was, you need to hear about the swap meet fight. Christie remembered it like it happened yesterday. There were 9 Hells Angels. Opposite them, 40 to 60 Mongols. The two gangs weren't supposed to cross paths that day. It was a coincidence, a bad one. Christie knew trouble was coming the moment one of his members locked eyes with a Mongol, because that guy's ex-wife had left him for the rival. And in biker culture, that's not just a breakup, that's blood debt.
A motorcycle shop, kind of a clubhouse called the Frame Up, and it was a Mongol hangout. And the bomb didn't go off. I was made to go back and get it. And I got it. And 2 weeks later, they brought another bomb in there.
Within seconds, fists flew, and then it got worse. The Mongols surrounded the Angels. Outnumbered nearly 6 to 1, the Angels had no choice but to go all in. And one guy, Jesse, who'd later become Christie's vice president, got knocked to the ground. That could have been it. One blow, unconscious. But Jesse wasn't done. From the corner of his eye, Christie saw him reach for something, a motor sprocket. That's not just a piece of metal. It's a spiked wheel with teeth. Jesse picked it up and started swinging. The scene Christie described was straight up medieval. Blood flying, flesh torn, screams coming from every direction. And in the middle of it all, Jesse hacking through bodies like he was in a war zone. Blood and flesh flying, Christie said. He didn't even try to pretty it up. That was the truth. But one of Christie's most disturbing stories was far more calculated than chaotic. It wasn't a fight. It was a message. A drug dealer had been running around Los Angeles wearing a fake Hell's Angels patch. That might seem like a small thing, but in that world, it's worse than disrespect. It's identity theft with a death sentence.
People were writing me going, are I going to get busted for posting these pictures on social media?
Christie found the guy. He did the recon, found the man's car, and climbed into the back seat with a blanket and a silenced .22 caliber pistol. He waited for hours, motionless, until he heard the crunch of footsteps on the gravel. The man opened the car door and slid into the seat. That's when Christie popped up, gun in hand, and told him to drive. Where to? The desert. No backup, no show of force. Just Christie, the drug dealer, and one terrifying trip to the middle of nowhere. The guy still claimed he didn't know what patch they were talking about. Christie didn't argue. He just handed him a shovel and told him to dig. 2 graves. So, what are your thoughts on this? Let us know in the comments below.